Alright, so first vlog guys, and 14 sessions in the bank for the 10k grinded up challenge. The plan was to run like a god and pretty much win every hand that I play. Now unfortunately that did not happen. Surprise, surprise. Now I started out with a bankroll of 1,000 bucks and decided to actually take a shot directly at no limit 200. Now I wouldn't recommend to actually be playing with 5 buy-ins of your total bankroll, but I did anyway. So yeah, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. It took me about 11 sessions before I actually was over the zero mark again. Well, anyway, let's take a look at some interesting hands that I played during the week. Okay, so I'm gonna start out with a hand that I'm not happy about how I played it. The hand begins with a loose aggressive player that has been limping a lot actually. He's been limping with suited connectors and small pocket pairs and stuff like that. He starts out with limping for $1. I get dealt pocket queens, so I raise it up to 4.5. Then I get called by small blind and big blind, and then also the under the gun limper. So we're going 4 ways to a flop. The flop is 3-7-5 rainbow, so a really good flop for pocket queens. The under the gun player actually lead out, and he bets more than 2/3 of the pot. So the under the gun player's range could be anything from pocket deuces to, who knows, 8s, 9s, 10s, perhaps even higher if he's limping with better hands, but I think he would put in a raise pre-flop if he had better than that. So we're probably ahead more than like 65-70% of the time here. He would have 7-8 suited, 6-7 suited, 8s, 9s, pocket 6s, pocket 4s, and of course all sets also on the board. So I decide to just call his bet to keep his entire range in, and it's a kind of flop where small blind and big blind shouldn't be hitting hard. Anyway, both the small blind and the big blind fold, so we're going to the turn heads up. Okay, so the pot is now about 35 bucks, and now he bets about half the pot, about $18. And I don't think that he would be betting a 5 against 4 people on the flop, like a 5-6 or an ace-5 or something like that. So I don't think that he has a 5. Now it's more unlikely that he will have a set on the flop. So he's most likely having some kind of hand like 6s or 8s or 7-8 or 6-7 or something in that range. So we're actually beating him quite often here, about probably more than 70% of the time here. So I decided to actually just call him here. I'm gonna still keep his entire range in and see what he does on the river. King of spade comes on the river, and under the gun player checks. This is actually where I'm quite disappointed over how I played this hand, because I decided to check on the river. I just chicken out. A couple of hands ago I saw him playing the king queen suited. He had been 2-barreling the king high, and on the river he actually check bet, or sorry, he's actually check raising all in with the king on the river, and won the hand. So I didn't want to get faced with a check raise all in on the river here. But I mean, the king here is not in his range this time, so I shouldn't be scared of the king. So I just made a completely wrong check on the river, and I lose a ton of value on the river. So I check it down, and he got pocket 8s. So we scooped the pot of 70 bucks. But if We look at the hand, we can actually play it differently. We can make a small value bet on the river. So let's say about, well, 23. Let's say we bet 25. We bet 25 on the river, 25 bucks. So it will cost him 25 to actually win 95. And if we look it from his side, he could probably be thinking that I have a 7 type of hand, A7, 7, 6, pocket 6s, and not likely to be having a 5 as well. So I think that he would be calling a $25 bet on the river. And a $25 bet on the river, I mean, the pot is then 120 instead of 70. So that's just one way of boosting the pot. Another way is to actually raise the flop a little bit, maybe mini raise or raise a little bit higher. Of course, he can make the fold, find the fold directly on the flop, but many times he will make the call, and we can go for a check on the turn and induce a bluff on the river, for example, and the pot will still be more than 70 bucks if you play it like that. And you can make the call on the river, and the pot is still higher than 70 bucks. You can have alternatives where you call the flop, and when the small blind and the big blind folds, on the turn you can make a raise, you can make a mini raise, or you can make a higher raise. I don't think that he will be calling anything bigger than a mini raise or something in the nearby. And even if you make the check on the river, in that case, the same here, the pot will still be more than 70 bucks. So you need to get some more value of this hand when you are so huge of a favorite and against his range. Because if you look at the river and looking at his entire range, we're actually 86% favorite when the king hits on the river. We have a lot of blockers for king queen, for example. Ace king, not likely to be limp calling with, he could be limp raising with it pre-flop, so he's not likely to have ace king. So the king in this case doesn't improve anyone, so it's definitely a bet on the river. So yeah, losing a ton of value there, but at least we scooped the pot. Okay, next hand, guys, and well, I promised myself to not do any bad beat stories, so let's do this one with a song.
Today it's Saturday, feeling good, I sit and play. First hand is pocket nines, I raise and get called by the blinds. There comes flop and there's a 9, I flopped a set and it feels so fine. Have the best and it is clear, I think that he has flopped a pair. I will bet for value here, hope that he has flopped a pair. He makes the call, nothing strange, many kings in his range. There comes turn and there's the king, he guy quickly moves his ships all in. You already know what the river will bring, but I make the call for the whole damn thing. He will wheel his king queen cards while I'm online looking at new cars, browsing on my futures buy. Oh, so much nice things to buy.
That's not a bad beat story. It's a song.
Saturday.